Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great most honor rule well. And Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of sincerity and truth. Just kind of wanted to go into Book of Samuel a bit and cover how, Eli's sons, they were wicked pieces of shit. And how they got killed off, man. And it's funny because they were basically given. So they were doing a necessary service at the time. Basically, within Israel, they were in the office of the priesthood, but they completely defiled it. They were moving like complete and total demons, and that's something that comes back time and again. Because even it says, I'll get into it, but it says later on, like at that time, the word of the Lord wasn't as out there, because they there weren't as many prophets on the scene. But then let me read through it, because more or less it's the way that they conducted themselves. It's like it's been something that's reoccurred within Israel time and again, where you would have those that basically, false prophets, more or less, people that were defiling the office that they were given an important role within Israel, and then they were not performing what they needed to do on any kind of level. So I'll start from 1 Samuel 2. I'll read this because the prayer is good. So it says, and Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoiceth in the Lord Yahweh. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord Yahweh. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in salvation. There is none holy as the Lord Yahweh, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our power. Talk no more so exceeding proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth, for the Lord Yahweh is a power of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. That's how cold it is. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, he deals in knowledge, and he weighs actions when he judges. And that's why it applies to those that are out teaching this truth, that are pushing this word out, that are basically performing the office of being a servant of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, as much as it applies to those that are hearing it, man. Those that are just so-called civilians, man. So it says, the bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired out themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased. Yeah, so any form of might or power, as people perceive it, or the Senate on the planet Earth, these things are below anything Yahweh Shem Yahushua is dealing with. These things are going to be below that. These things are going to be in order underneath Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Because it's what they've stumbled, the bows of mighty men. Okay, yeah. So it says, so that the barren have borne 7, and she that have many children is waxed feeble. And that's the thing. It's like the Lord can basically open up and seal the wombs. And that's the thing. It's all these things are basically in order underneath Yahweh Shem Yahushua. As such, it's plain. It's like what There's no means by which you can combat it. So it says, many children is waxed feeble. It says, the Lord Yahweh killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord Yahweh maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. And that's the thing. Any state you're in, hey, the Lord can flip it. The Lord can have you rise. The Lord can have you fall. Principal example is Esau at the moment. Esau is in that position of prominence, position of power. He's got the whole world looking at him like his, that angel of light. But you go back to his origins. You go back to who truly is. He is, he's the basis of men. So it says, he raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord Yahweh's, and he hath set the world upon them. Yeah. So anyone, when King David, that's the thing is, imagine like when King David was basically found by Samuel. He was just a shepherd boy. When Jesse brought out sons, he was like, "Yo, he was like, well, he's like, okay, because there's no way it could be David. David's just he's just out tending the sheep. He ain't on no kind of level. Little did he know David was out there slaying lions, and David's faith was on a level beyond. Uh, but that's why it's as you view things calmly. That's why it's like you could look at a guy, he could look like a homeless bum. You might give him the payment on mind. That might be an angel sent unawares, man. So it says, he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord Jehovah shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord Jehovah shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. Yeah. It says, and Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord Jehovah before Eli the priest. Yeah, so basically, and the first chapter has the story of Hannah. Her womb was closed up. Then she came to Eli and she prayed, and then the Lord opened it up and basically gave her Samuel, and then she brought back Samuel to what's it called? Basically serve the Lord. And then the Lord rewarded her, gave her more sons and daughters after. I think it says, well, it might say it further down, or maybe it says it. I think it says it later on in the chapter. But Elkanah was her husband. So it says, priest custom of the people. Okay. Before Eli the priest. So it says, now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. And that's, getting into the point. But the prayer was good off of, and it reflects on how these guys had no fear of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. The sons of Eli. So it says, now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord Yahweh. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came while the flesh was in seething, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand, and he struck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So he just meant to take a portion. And it said it's the custom, the priest's custom. So I said, the priest servant, while the flesh hook, and he struck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. Yeah, so these guys were, so backwards. Such infidels that they were basically just grabbing up. They weren't even taking a portion. Man, were just grabbing it up and just saying like, yo, pass the thing, and don't even cook it. Man, we're having it raw. So these, those complete and utter disregard for Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and for the service that they were meant to be doing. Because there was in that time there was significance to the offerings, man. It's like being able to make, offerings for different reasons, sin offerings, primarily. It's like those things are necessary for maintaining, the covenant as it was then. So for them, them to be disregarding that, they hold that in no regard whatsoever. These guys are basically thinking they're trying to live like they're princes. But because they have they're in that position, that responsibility has been given over to them, and that's something for which you have for a lot of guys. They see the word, they come in, they think it's some pathway to glory for themselves, and that's something that has been a failing in Israel for the longest, man. You've had These guys that come up that present themselves as leaders, they'll be sitting in the prominent seats, but they're not doing they're not doing their job, which they're meant to be doing. And really, it's what lack of fear of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Because it says what but raw, and it says if any man said unto him so it says, and if any man said unto him, let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as thy soul desireth, then he would answer him, nay, but thou shalt give it to me now, and if not, I will take it by force. So when saying he'll uppercut you and take it if you try and cook the meat as it's meant to be eaten. So you guys were completely off. And that's that's the thing, is when you don't have fear of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, then it's all the things, like all the actions that you meant, basically respecting the laws, trying to keep them to the best of your ability. All these things you're meant to be doing, essentially. Those things don't they don't occur. As far as these guys are justified in their own mind. They're essentially setting about to going about to set up their own righteousness, man. That's really what they're doing. Because says what but nay so it says, wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord Yahweh, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord Yahweh. Says, but Samuel ministered before the Lord Yahweh, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Let me get it's gonna get was it 2 or 3? No. And this is something that has been paralleled and repeated through time and again. 2 Timothy 3 it says, and 1, it says, this know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of themselves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of the Most High, having a form of godliness, but denying the power of thereof. From such turn away. And there's that completely encapsulates these guys. But there was a bit more I was gonna read actually, because okay, so I'll skip down to 22. Well, I can read it still. It says, but Samuel ministered before the Lord Yahweh, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, and said, the Lord Yahweh give the seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord Yahweh. Yeah, because Eli was a loan, essentially. And it says, and they went unto their own home. And the Lord Yahweh visited Hannah, so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord Yahweh. Yeah. So she had the womb open up afterwards. And that's, it's a blessing she was given. Because why? Samuel is legendary. Legendary, man. Samuel basically, crowned David, set up the lineage, but more or less was given, honor of setting up the lineage that will go down to Yahweh Shai, man. So it's actually legendary. But hey, that's the honor that was given, and that's something that the house of David, that's something that's going to be around in the kingdom of heaven. That's going to be rebuilt. That's something that was, in the time, it got rent after Solomon passed, when Rehoboam basically took up the throne. It got split, but that's something that is being rebuilt. And that, hey, that's beautiful. That's something that the Lord basically set up, man. The house of David, because he was like, okay, that's the king. That's the king that's basically going to be this, basically going to be the line that Yahushua comes out of. And that's going to be the house. That's going to be the royal house of Israel. Um, so it says, now Eli and group of 4. Yes. So it says, now Eli was very old and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Yeah, so these men were doing all forms of criminality, man. Men were laying with the women, and that's something that happens as well, because hey, when in these positions of prominence, you'll have stories come out of, certain guys, they'll just be like, oh yeah, he was helping himself to other men's women. And that's completely, that shows no regard or fear of the Lord, because that's a sin. A sin unto death, man. But that's the thing, it's like in this modern age now, it's not even a crime. Yeah, it's such a mess. It's like she can go off and do criminality, or some guy, some guy's gonna come in and do criminality with your wife, and then she'll divorce you and still get all your goods. Like it's completely out of order. It's in total disorder. So it says 2 Timothy 3:6 says, for of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. Yeah. So that's something that's still done. That women, and that's why you have all these women up in the church. I can't remember. I saw a news article. It was in one of those mega churches, them down south mega churches, where they're talking about there was a guy that was what you call it. He got revealed like popping multiple of the wives of the women in his congregation. That's some shit that goes down on a regular. These things, that's that whole Christianity, that shit is a joke. It's washed up. They've been exposed. They've been found to be hypocrites. They talk a good game, and they don't even talk a good game. They talk a lot of mess. They talk a lot of confusion, but they're still moving like complete and total reprobates and degenerates. Says and lead captive silly women laden with lusts, led away with diverse, laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Yeah, and that understanding's kept from them. And that's the thing. If you don't even have the understanding, also don't have the fear of the Lord. Those things are gifts, man. The fear of the Lord. That's the start. That's the beginning of wisdom. If you realize, that's why I read the prayer, because it's like, hey, you go into it. The Lord basically sets up and brings down. It's basically through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai that you're even gonna gain anything, man. Any form of wisdom, any form of understanding, any capability, anything you get. Hey, the Lord dished that onto you. So then, if you're not gonna fear, hey, the Lord can take it away. The Lord can basically put you in a state where you're in complete confusion, man. Where you're that dry bone again. Where you're that out of the congregational understanding. You're basically a moving corpse, a shambling, moving corpse. That's why you fear the Lord. But it says what? So back in 1 Samuel 2:22, it says, now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he said unto them, why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord Yahweh's people to transgress. That's the thing as well, is these guys should have been dealt with. Because, bruv, they've gone completely off. They've gone completely off. They're in the stratosphere, man. They're out of there. They're completely lost causes. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord Yahweh, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearken not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord Yahweh would slay them. Now, and the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord Yahweh and also with men. And there came a man of the Most High unto Eli, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And now, no, and did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon mine altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice, at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honourest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel my people. Yeah, so it's completely thrown the priesthood in essentially in the bin, man. There was no regard. That service in Israel ceased to exist. Well, it was said in Shiloh that would cease to exist. So that's why it's like I'm gonna go into the judgment they get after, and that's the thing. It's gonna be the same thing. Well, no, it's gonna be even worse because the judgment levels we're dealing with now at the time of the end have amped up. They've scaled up even for like to way higher levels. And that's the thing is these ordinances that in that time they were shadow of things to come. They were basically an approximation of how things are going to be perfected in the kingdom. So then for them to be disrespecting that, they didn't like, they might have just thought, oh, these are just carnal movements, these are just carnal actions that we're taking. But it means so it's basically a representation of much more. So it says to make yourself fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel my people. Wherefore the Lord Yahweh, power of Israel, saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord Yahweh saith, be it far from me, for them that honour me I will honour, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm, and the arm of thy father's house, and there shall not be an old man in thine house. The house is going to be cut off, and it says what? And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, in all that the wealth which the power shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And a man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And this shall be a sign unto thee that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall both die, both of them. That's the thing. The judgment was set, and it's same thing for now. Now is a time where it's the final lines are being drawn, and this is a thing. These things happen in cycles. Those that are basically those that are wicked, that have played the role of the wicked amongst Israel time and again, because reincarnations and scriptures, they've come back and back in the cycle to where they've basically revealed themselves to be what to be those wicked, to be those deserving of judgment. And it's like they're playing the role again now. It's like you have those wicked men again. The judgment's set. This is the final judgment they're gonna get before they finally get their get a mind right when they come back through the elect in the kingdom. As such, that's why these things are gonna be on done on a legendary scale. Because says what and I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in mine heart. And that's why as well Samuel says it to to Saul, like chapters later, like chapter 15, I think it is, where it is to serve the Most High is better than was it is better than offerings? I can't remember the exact the servant, but it basically says, for rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft, and that's same spirit these guys are in, and that's the thing, is these guys are doing something heavily demonic. These guys are completely against the what do you call it? Going completely against the truth, completely against Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And that's something that's mentioned in Acts as well. It says what you do is touching these men. But if you be found, to be fighting against Yahweh Shem Yahushai, if you're fighting against the Most High, it's like that you can't win. It's you're taking the L, and that's it's that peak. So it says, "I'll raise me up a faithful priest, in my which shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind." And that's what it's about. It's about following instruction. That's why it says what they did, what they were supposed to do. Those that the Lord's going to reward, they did as they were supposed to do. Because that's the job. It's service of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, doing what's required of you. So it says, "And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, Put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread." Okay. So let me skip to, was it 4? Yeah. Because, okay. Well, I'll read it from the top. So 1 Samuel 4:1, it says, "The word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched against Ebenezer. And the Philistines pitched in Athek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel. And when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it shall save us out of the hand of our enemies." That's the thing, is, they're basically hoping to have the presence of the Lord. Well, and that's a funny thing, because that's why it's like, these things are the approximation. Because essentially it's like they're trying to, by having an ark there, have the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai amongst them, so they can get the victory, they can get the blessing. But then what? It's who's bearing the ark? It's two of the grimiest niggas on the planet Earth. Two filthy, vile bastards. So it's like the Lord's not going to be dealing with them anyway. So that's why it's like the physical trying to emulate, it's a shadow of things to come. They're trying to, it's like you're trying to force a spirit, but that's, it's not even gonna go down that way. So it says, it's funny still. But okay, let me read on. "To save us from the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of the Most High." Yeah, so it's these guys were brought here, and it's the spirit still, because the Lord had this go down. For what? So it says, "And the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh came into the camp, all Israel shout, and when the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What meaneth the noise of the great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord Yahweh was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, Power is come unto the camp, And they said, Woe unto us, for there have not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty powers? These are the powers that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. And that's how it was known. They knew, like, yo, Egypt had been put on smash. Egypt been taken from the most prominent jewel to fucking dust, man. Them man, Egypt had been completely wiped out. That shit had been erased. And that's the thing, is this how it was, when the Lord, that's the thing, that's how the Lord's judgment, how cold it is. The judgment goes out. Hey, everyone's everyone's gonna know, man. So this is what, woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty powers. Okay, so it says, Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O you Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. Yeah, because why? Read Deuteronomy 28 and 15. It says, but if you don't keep the commandments, then what? You're basically gonna, you're toast. You're done out. And they fled every man into his tent, and there was a very great slaughter. So it says, and the Philistines fought, and Israel smitten. Okay, yeah, and every man fled into his tent, and there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. So men got annihilated. And the ark of the Most High was taken, and the ark of the power was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And that's how the Lord had it go down. Had the ark get taken by them, and then what? They got slain. Because that was the key part. Them man got cut off. The prophet came and told Eli. He said, look, hey, your branch, your family's gonna get cut off. And that's how it went down. And it wasn't even like they just got slain. They're walking down the street, and the guy just jerked them in the chest. The Lord had it where it was a prominent battle, and then had the whole battle completely. Israel get put completely on smash. Because as well, it's basically shifting from. Well, it was bringing Samuel into prominence, because Samuel as well, after he comes into prominence, was then what? Going to set up the kingship, the first one, the house of Saul, where it was going to get rent from, and then what? The house of David, that was going to be the house, until the end of time. Well, forevermore, let's say. Age unto age. And that's how the Lord gets the judgment. It's gonna be the same thing in this current time. It's gonna be the same thing in this current time, because you're basically gonna have you're gonna have men get completely annihilated in legendary judgments. Because that's how the Lord gets down. Now is the time. It's like those that have, really taken, it's essentially not having fear of the Lord. They've basically been doing whatever they desire. They've been fulfilling their heart's desire, like I read in Timothy. They've more or less just been doing as they desire. Then what? The Lord's basically going to have it where it's like, going to be, okay, you've done that. Now you've been set up. Gonna have some Game of Thrones. Gonna have, a few seasons where it just, it seems like, oh, this might work out. They'll be thinking, oh, it's gonna be like in Amos, I believe it is. Is it Amos 5? Yeah, Amos 5:18. It says, "What woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord? To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into a house and leaned his hand on a wall and a serpent bit him." Yeah, it's gonna be you're gonna flee from one form of terror, one form of destruction, and survive. But like, oof, you're wiping your brow, you're thinking, your heart rate's starting to settle, then the next thing is gonna come and you're gonna get caught out there. And that's why it's like these guys would do it. They'll you know, Hophni and Phineas, they're out there diddling people's wives, diddling the mandem's wives, performing all forms of madness, completely disrespecting the what's it called? Completely disrespecting the sacrifice. And then what? They got caught slipping. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Say praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harakakadash, double on the apostles and those who get most on the rule. Shalom. Shalom.